your own first responder. So in that one, we follow the acronym MARCH, M-A-R-C-H, which Special Operations basically coined that acronym early on in the wars, right? So in Afghanistan and Iraq, it's where we were performing combat medicine on a regular basis. And we learned, number one, what used to be last case scenario became first case scenario, right? And that is a tourniquet. You cannot go wrong having one of these everywhere, right? So it is for major bleeders of extremities, right? And that excludes your head. Our head is kind of an extremity, but you wouldn't want to put a tourniquet around your neck. Not that you would. I'm just saying it out loud because common sense isn't that common anymore. Anyway, the tourniquet, the rule is really simple. Go high or die, right? So once you pull this thing out, you're going to go all the way up under to the armpit, or you're going to come all the way up into the groin, and you're going to crank it down, and then you're going to keep cranking until the bleeding stops. It used to be a last resort because there was an untested theory that if you put a tourniquet on someone and if it stays on for more than a couple of hours, then you would be forced to amputate that limb because it didn't get circulation. There would be nerve damage, blah, 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 blah. It turned out to all be bullshit because we were putting tourniquets on people where they didn't actually get help or get their wound taken care of for upwards to 96 hours. And once they did go to surgery, their limbs were fine afterwards. So that's 96 hours of, no circulation to a limb, and it was fine. So that's why tourniquets now have become your first choice for major bleeders of extremities. Okay. Outside of that, building a little blowout kit. We call them blowout kits, but these little, basically they're trauma kits, right? So this one's vacuum packed and ready to go. So food savers are great. They're inexpensive. You can buy this plastic and seal everything up. Like it's almost like an addiction. You start to just vacuum pack everything. So this has an occlusive dressing, right, for chest injuries. Anything that has to do with the lungs. It's got quick clot, right? Quick clot is a powder that you can actually pour into a wound, and it has a chemical reaction with your blood and creates almost like a cauterizing effect. Or that's the old stuff. Sorry. The new stuff actually clots. It influences clotting. And then you've got pressure dressings. You've got a 14 gauge needle here for decompressions. I mean, a lot of this requires some training, but it all follows the acronym MARCH that I put in the book. But a tourniquet and a first aid kit, a trauma kit that deals with worst case scenario or deals with MARCH. MARCH is massive hemorrhage, right? So that's your big bleeders. Those are things you want to deal with first, okay? And then A is airway. You got to ensure someone's breathing, right? They need oxygen, oxygenate the blood, then it keeps everything else healthy. Then you've got respirations, right? Is their chest going up and down? Are they actually breathing? Airway is more like, hey, I'm going to open your mouth. I'm going to look, listen, feel. I'm going to ensure there's no obstructions. And then C is circulation, right? You're checking pulses close to the heart and then far from the heart. And if they've got pulses, close to the heart and far from the heart, then they're probably doing okay. And then H is hypothermia. And I guess, also H, there's different information out there, but head injury, right? Conscious, unconscious, and then hypothermia, you always want to treat for that. So prevent shock. Okay. So that is be your own first responder and some of the tools that go with that chapter. Be your own RTO. So being your own radio, telephone basically means have a comms plan. Now there's a lot of different ways of communicating, right? We think of it in terms of our cell phone. But the reality is the cell phone is a primary, and it's great. This should be your primary because it's easy to use. You usually have it everywhere you go. So this is your 911, no doubt about it. And it probably will always be your primary, but you need to think about secondary and tertiary means of communicating. And the way that it's broken out in there in the book is think of your property and where you live, these rings, right? You have at home, then you have outside your fence line, then you have outside of your acreage, then you have outside of the town and outside your state. And being able to collect information, especially national broadcasts, is a good idea. So to get the furthest information, a shortwave radio is great. And there's a lot of different ones out there on the market. I forgot mine. But you don't need to spend a lot of money. They do a great job. I listed some of the most popular frequencies in the chapter that will give you all the information you need. And that's basically one way how to get information, shortwave, right? And that's assuming, let's say, towers go down, your cell phone dies, you can't recharge. I mean, there's a number of issues that could happen to your primary. So, of course, you've got your shortwave radio to collect information, know what's going on in the world. And then there's actually the two-way, right? Two-way radios. And so you can get into HF radios, will basically let you talk much, much further away. You can actually bounce your radio waves off the stratosphere and actually talk to people halfway around the world. You can talk to people on ISS up in the International Space Station. It's just building an antenna. You don't have to build expensive ones, and having a radio that has enough wattage, right? And then you can start playing within the different bands, right? So if we had a clear piece of plexiglass in front of me, I would take a marker and I would start with big waves, and then I would get shorter, smaller waves, right? Big waves represent HF, and then middle is like right in the middle would be UHF, VHF, right? As the waves get narrower, then they get bigger. That's kind of moving out of UHF, VHF into HF. And their distance is almost kind of calculated the same way. HF, the big waves, can go further than the VHF, UHF waves. But there's a myriad of radios out there. Baofeng is kind of the more popular one. Get them on Amazon for $30-$40. And you can start playing around and programming and listening to all kinds of radio stations out there. Some of them are informative. Some of them are just, ham operators that have nightly shows, or they do check-ins with one another. And there's a whole world of code words and code names in the ham radio world. But anyway, it's just a good idea to think in terms of those layers, right? How do I talk to people, in my area? How do I talk to my family on my property? And then how do I collect information when nothing else is working? Okay.
You're listening to Can You Survive This Podcast? Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and share on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.